This is a Shrimps Trust podcast. All news and all views expressed in the podcast are those of the contributors, not necessarily those of Morecambe Football Club.
Yeah. God, I believe me. Best team in the land is Morecambe FC. Has gone to see me. Best team in the land is Morecambe FC.
Right, welcome along. It's been another quiet week at Morecambe FC, so why not catch up and listen to the Shrimps Trust podcast? Thank you for joining us. This week, to accompany ourselves, the eternally toxic twins, myself and Joel, we have the chair, the manager and long-serving player from MFC Women's team following their inaugural home match played at the Mazuma last Sunday. So welcome along Nick Barrett, Ben Anderson and Hannah Paling.
Hi.
Hi, you all right?
Yep, you've got to speak. That's the way.
Yeah.
But before we come to that, we'll obviously chat a little bit about what's been going on off the field this week. So we welcome. Let's start with another surprise, dramatic chapter in what we hoped would be an abandoned thriller, and we talked to our team board member, who's always here to help, James. It's been a challenging week. We'll start with that. Not ideal, this situation with the wages not being paid, because obviously it sends us back into spinning into turmoil again, I would imagine, James.
Yeah, very much so. And I won't stay on the pod tonight, as we've discussed, because I want you guys to be able to focus on MFC Women and the wonderfully positive story there, and all the progress that's been made. But it would have been, frankly, cowardly not to come on the pod and actually give some sort of update. We've not yet got the funds in to make payroll, which is hugely frustrating. The bottom line is that the board's sole priority at the moment has got to be getting good people paid for the work they've already done, and like fundamentally, that's all that anybody's thinking about at the moment. I will say just one or two other short things, and this is stuff that's been said already or it's in the public domain. The board is to a man livid that we find ourselves in this situation. It is only Bond Group that has control over the sale process, and it is only Bond Group that has access to the information required to source external funding, to source any form of loans or debt. And it's impossible to say more than that without prejudicing the efforts to secure funds to pay wages, which is, as I say, the board's sole focus. So that's kind of where I have to stop. Apart from to say that our attitude, my attitude, the never say die, never give up attitude doesn't change. I massively appreciate the patience of the people who work for the football club, the staff, the players, everybody. And personally and as a board, we completely understand that it's being sorely tested. I can't really say much more than that at this stage, but I appreciate whatever patience we get from fans and from people outside the club, because it is a difficult situation and we can't do anything other than focus on trying to resolve it.
Well, like I say, it was an unfortunate way for it to come out with Alan Nixon reporting it before anybody else knew that much about it. But obviously that was only, that was sort of Monday evening it transpired. And here we are, record this on a Thursday evening before you're listening to this on a Friday or a Saturday. And it's an unfortunate way for it to come out. And it's understandable that it has come out. But how frustrated were you as a board that yet again we're in this situation? Like I said, it's like another chapter of an unfinished thriller from a few years ago, even before you were, when you first got involved. And it's Wigan have gone through the same thing a couple of weeks ago. And it's just, you must have had your head in your hands going, here we go again.
I think to be honest, we're all just focused on people getting paid. Again, I can be frustrated. We can all be frustrated, but that doesn't help people pay bills. That doesn't help people meet mortgages. So my frustrations, the rest of the board's frustrations, are pale into insignificance next to the importance of paying rations. I think that the way it broke, I couldn't give a toss. It doesn't matter whether it was Alan Nixon or someone else on Twitter, somebody on a Facebook group. It just doesn't matter. News like this is always going to break. I'm pleased that the message was able to be shared with everybody who it affects most first, the staff. And all that's happened since that message was shared is a lot of hard work to try and get on group to come up with the solution to the problem. And that is testament, like the amount of hours that I've seen Graham put in over the course of this year. He's put more hours into Morecambe than he's put into his family and his job combined. You could probably say the same about Rob for the last 30 or 40 years. Yeah. It's hugely frustrating, but our frustrations pale in insignificance next to the importance of people paying the mortgages. And so, yeah, what patience people are able to give us, we just appreciate massively. And yeah, we won't do anything other than try and source funding and solve this challenge. And it is just a challenge. And as I say, nobody gives up. Nobody says die.
No. So final question. Have you got any assurances that it might happen tomorrow as the last day of the month, or are we still sort of like are we still floating in the wind?
Yes, there are assurances. There have been assurances.
Right, that's all I need to know. Thanks, James. As per, I hope we can come and chat and have you on a bit more positive next week after we've maybe done the decent thing and paid the staff, and also managed to scrape something at Oakwell. But that's something we'll chat on without you, because I know you've got stuff to do. So thanks for joining us.
Right, good. Have a good podcast, guys, and wonderful to see the positive progress of MFC Women. The win on Sunday was fantastic. The crowd was fantastic. Like, no matter what else is happening, that should not be the significance of that and the importance of that shouldn't be forgotten. So have a good pod, and I'll see you all soon.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
So this is obviously a tricky situation. I'm not going to dwell on it too long, but I'll come to Joel from the Trust. There's been no reaction from the Trust as yet, because obviously it's still early days and we haven't got much information. But the only thing you can glean is that, obviously, as James just said there, the situation is that Bond Group control the finances. They've not come up with the finances. You know, you're logically going to lead a conclusion that they're trying to put pressure on to get the EFL to if you like, to give the massive tick to Sabjot to take over, so that he can take over the wages. I don't know. I'm guessing. What do you say, Joel?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you say, we can't know this for sure. We can't know exactly what the mechanisms behind this situation are, but ultimately it does seem through this kind of long protracted process that Jason and Bond Group are keen to get this sale over the line to Saab. And it's frustrating because obviously this sale has been going on for a very long time now. It's been in the works for a very long time. I think probably around 6 months, going back to towards the start of the season. And the fact that the paperwork isn't ready to be verified by the EFL, the fact that they haven't been able to provide the paperwork to the EFL that will satisfy that test is really concerning by this point. It shouldn't take this long, really, but it has. And Jason does seem intent on persevering down this route, and I think initially we've seen the detrimental effect that's had on the pitch, because ultimately we have been a little bit hamstrung in the transfer market. We had a lot of turnover to do with a change of manager. It's meant that we've really got to focus on getting one out before we can get one in, rather than maybe having a little bit more flexibility that we might want. Yep. And then also just personally for the players and the manager, we don't know exactly what they've had to deal with behind the scenes before this point, but it can't have been easy. It's not a nice situation to be able to handle. It's stressful, and we can see just the way it's turned out. You know, look at the squad. There were a couple of gaps in the squad, I'd say, lacking the defensive midfielder, lacking a bit more depth up front, and I think that ultimately stems from not having that flexibility in the transfer market. And now it has come to this head, where this kind of whole protracted saga has led to the players not getting paid. And ultimately, it's annoying. We don't like struggling on the pitch, but that pales in comparison to the fact that, as James alluded to just now, these are people who've got bills to pay, mortgages, etc. All those things that are now kind of being put in some level of jeopardy because they've not been paid for this month, and it is awful that has gone to that point, because seemingly Bond is so intent on this sale that so far doesn't look very likely to happen because of how long it's taken.
True.
Yeah, for them to not even do enough to satisfy the EFL. So it is incredibly frustrating, and I feel for everybody at the club really, because they've had a hard season, and they've come on, some of the players and the management have come under flack, I think a bit unfairly at times, and this just kind of shows what a difficult situation they're in. So yeah, very frustrating.
And all of us doing sort of full-time work, and this is the same with you, Nick, and you, Ben, and you, Hannah. Imagine yourself sort of like putting a decent shift in 40 hours a week, and then coming to the end of the month and they're saying you're not getting any money. That's got, how do you pay the mortgage? How do you pay your rent? How do you pay your bills, Nick? It's not good. I'm not thinking of the playing staff. I'm just thinking of the staff behind the scenes.
Yeah, as you say, everybody puts in a shift over the last month. If you're looking at the players, they've got big games coming up. They've got a game on Saturday, and you think, well, hang on a minute. They're asking us to put a shift on. We're saying every game now is a cup final, but have we actually got the motivation now to go on and do that? I would very much doubt it. I mean, if they're great, if they get paid tomorrow, may put them on a bit of a high and obviously get a result. But me personally, I would be pretty upset at the minute, and they're answering trying to answer, get a lot of questions answered because of the way it's going. I'd be very unsure about where the future lies.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, and I do feel for every single member of staff who's done the best and done the job and then doesn't get paid. Because let's be fair, 90% of us, if we didn't have to work and we could afford not to, you probably wouldn't, and you'd do something that you wanted to do. But these people are putting in a shift behind the scenes and not getting the money. But anyway, all will become clear. Fingers crossed that the money will arrive, and by the time you're actually listening to this, that there will be some good news. But we'll move on. We'll chat a little bit about the hoodoo of MK Dons yet again. I think looking at last season, we lost 4-0, 2-0, and this season we lost 4-0, 2-0, and 1-0. So we've done well scoring against MK Dons, haven't we, Joel?
Oh no, yeah. Well, we kept it. We haven't scored against them, but we've kept it to 1.
Yeah.
So that's something. And we actually did something that I haven't seen us do against MK Dons in ages, which was play kind of well. I mean, I know I'm probably going to get a bit of stick for saying this, but there were some aspects of the performance that were really pretty decent. And I've chatted to neutrals who are at the game who've said this independently of me saying my thoughts. I was chatting to Gabriel Sutton, who was helping commentate on the game, and yeah, we felt that some of the aspects of the performance were really pretty decent, to be honest. I thought we pressed, and the way we kind of set up defensively was kind of okay. The way we tried to have a bit of a go at them. We tried to give them trouble in certain moments, and I thought we progressed the ball relatively well up until around the final third. I thought
story of the season, really.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of did those bits quite well. I think the drawbacks in the performance were, I think there were some errors that were a bit sloppy and daft that you don't want to see happen, but I guess they happen sometimes. The error for the goal, obviously stepping out a little bit too early with the ball in behind. And then just the final, but I think the main thing is the final third. It's so frustrating because we worked the ball quite nicely up the pitch, I thought, but it kind of doesn't really count for anything if you can't quite put things together in the final third. And I think maybe that's where we've continued in these past few months to feel the loss of Kieran Phillips. I think maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
He's that person who is buzzing around the penalty area, trying to link up play, trying to make runs to try and force the issue with the defenders. That's what impressed me about MK Dons when they didn't actually. I mean, for all that MK Dons have been over the past couple of years, we have more possession than them, more touches, more passes. But when they got in the final third, I thought they were a bit more clinical. They have players like Lecco, who are very willing to kind of take the ball on and drag people around, and people looking for 1-2s and trying to make those link ups and make those runs in behind. And we didn't really seem to have that. We have a lot of very nice midfielders who are fantastically talented footballers, but we haven't really got that cutting edge up in the kind of centre forward position. Obviously, Oumar Niasse, he's a player who possesses great quality, but he's not really played football for a year, and it's going to be difficult to kind of come back into the game with a new team and get up to speed. And obviously, Cole Stockton's been up and down this year, so I think, yeah, we're seeing the negative detriments of that. And while there were some good aspects of the performance, if you can't quite make it gel in the final third, it kind of does ultimately come for nothing at the end. But hopefully that's something we'll be able to hopefully sort out in the last few games of the season and perform another miracle akin to the one that we did last season.
We did it at post though.
Yeah, did we? Oh yeah, that was a hell of a hit by Sparrow, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And typical of us, it hit the post and came out and they cleared it, and that's just sort of summed up our season, didn't it? Really, but
yeah, I think it smashed it and went wide. I mean, to be fair, it was a hell of a hit. He did very well. It was a nasty volley to try and catch.
Yeah, through a crowd of players, and people just stood and watched it. But there you go, these things happen. So moving on to Saturday, I was expecting a tough game anyway, but when Barnsley got beat at Exeter midweek, I was like, oh great, a wounded top six team needing to batter a team at the bottom to get the form back. What can possibly go wrong?
Yeah, that's pretty much similar to what I thought, because I was thinking, you know what, one of the form sides in the division, they're flying, they're gunning for automatic promotion. They haven't lost in ages. They've just beaten Sheffield Wednesday and ended Sheffield. There's massive unbeaten run of like 23 games that Sheffield Wednesday had. We're turning up. We've got a terrible away form. The players haven't been paid. We're in a relegation fight. So I was like, fantastic, 1-0 win with 18% possession written all over it. It's going to happen. But obviously,
that's exactly what I thought last week.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But then, then obviously, I think Exeter beating them does throw a curveball. Does it knock them off kilter a little bit? Obviously, look at Sheffield Wednesday's bad results that they've had. That defeat to Barnsley looks to have knocked them off kilter. They've had that. They've lost to Forest Green, which is mad, which is Forest Green's first win since December. They very, very nearly lost to Cheltenham last night. So, sorry, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. They very, very nearly lost to Cheltenham last night. So, maybe it's not Barnsley off their kilter a bit, but at the same time, there could be a bit of a wounded animal. But yeah, it's a very tough game, and I think it's probably.
And I don't know why we're away at Barnsley, and then we've got Plymouth at home. Nick, what's there to worry about?
Well, I was just thinking, perhaps you're underestimating some of these results. Sheffield Wednesday probably peaked a little bit, Exeter on a roll. They smashed Accrington, didn't they? Accrington at the weekend. So perhaps we're just perhaps underplaying it a little bit. It might just work in our favour at the weekend.
I like your positivity.
Coming back from Exeter driving down to Exeter on a Tuesday night is a horrid trip. Maybe they're reeling from that a bit.
Has anybody had a chat with Phillips? Will they be playing him? And he seems to be playing some nice balls, and I think that's what we're missing at the minute. When you go back to the team a couple of years ago, when it was Toombs and Mendes Gomez on the left, Phillips on the right, we had a bit of something about us going forward as the midfield. You could get your head up and see runners. We're not really seeing those runners at the minute, and that's what you look for as a midfielder. Perhaps we're just lacking that. I've watched it the last few games, and I'm thinking, the movement, is it really good enough? And you think, I can see why we're not scoring goals, because it's just not the end product at the end of the day, and there isn't a direction. You think, I mean, hate to say it, but have we got it? Have we actually got that in us to get enough goals to get us out of this?
Well, I think the point is, and this is something that we made last week, that Danny Crowley's come in, and he is a creative midfielder, and some people have been critical of him because he does like pirouettes and turns back on himself. But to be fair, he'll always turn and look forward. But then every time he turns and look forward, there's
nothing.
Yeah, there's people just stood there, and he's got to have movement. He's got to have runners, because he's proved he's capable of finding the passes, hasn't he, Joe?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at the end, what do people want him to do? Just boot it out in behind the defence when there's nobody there for the sake of it, so we can go, oh, well done, you hit a forward pass. No, we want to keep the ball. We want to make a chance, And yeah, some of the criticism I see levelled at him, I do feel is pretty unfair. I think, yeah, maybe there's been the odd time where he's not quite clocked onto the ball through, but generally he's always looking for a forward pass. He's I think he's provided a couple of assists in recent games. I know he's definitely set up a couple of goals that Love's got. When the opportunity's there, he generally will try and find the pass, but I don't think the runs aren't always there, and you can't necessarily, pin him for not playing a pass that's not on. And yeah, most of the feedback I get from other fans who've been of opposition fans of teams that faced her, that I'd love Crowley. He's amazing. His technical ability is fantastic. I love him in our team. So
But
yeah,
unfortunately, he needs Carlos Mendes Gomez and John O'Sullivan wide.
Yeah, you need a couple of people running beyond. Maybe
Phillips and Wildig running into the box. But
maybe there's a way to put Jensen Weir back in those positions, because he's shown he's capable of running late into the box. I think I remember in that 4-2-3-1 kind of thing that we did against Bolton, when Crowley came wide and Weir went to number 10 and Gibbo came into midfield.
Yeah.
That seemed to work quite nicely, I thought, because it just gave Weir that license to push him beyond. But at the same time, it depends on what personnel we've got available. Obviously, that became not an option when Melbourne got his injury, and Gibbo had to go back to left back. So, yeah, I mean, that's another point. Our season has been horrifically hampered by injuries. We haven't really had a defensive midfielder, so we kind of had to have Gibbo there, rely on Gibbo there a lot. Then Melbourne's been injured for most of the season, so we've actually required Gibbo at left back quite a lot. Jake Taylor missed his the depth and the competition that he would have provided as a quality player in midfield. It's not been fortunate, and obviously losing our best striker
these are all
in
good
January.
excuses. I'm liking these. Keep them coming.
I know, yeah. I mean, it's been a bit of a cursed season. It can't be.
Was I dreaming it, or did I see Doofus make a cameo the other week?
He came on. The ghost of Doofus came on as snow.
Yeah. Where's 10 minutes and he's gone again.
Yeah. I think he might have hurt himself coming on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those, and I think he was in, and then we got Nias in about 2 or 3 days after Doofus came back. So, but I think as well, he's been out for a year with an ACL. It's very, very hard to come back and just kind of hit the ground running with that, isn't it? Especially in a relegation dogfight. So hopefully Nias is going to be able to provide the quality in the last 7 games. 5 goals. You heard it here first.
Yeah. The fact that you're on glue. Yeah. I hope you're right, Joel. Ben, I'm going to come to you now. I know you're a long-time Morecambe fan. Obviously, your mum was, a big Morecambe fan, etc., etc. What are your thoughts on survival? What do you think?
There is a chance they can do it. I know you're going on about like all the fixtures and the losses, but you only have to look at like Liverpool beating United 7-0 and then go and lose to Bournemouth the week after 1-0.
That's the beauty of football, isn't it?
It's football. Some games you'll have games where everything you hit just goes in. Other games anything you hit, you can't hit a barn door. It almost sounds like the strikers are not looking for the runs anymore. So when you're looking for the balls to go through, they're not coming, so they've stopped running.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you completely.
And then the midfield, it then has the knock-on effect of the midfield, where then they're looking for a striker or a winger to run on, and they're not going to play the ball. So it has a knock-on effect. But they've done it before. They can do it again. They're one of only 2 clubs never to be relegated. So you've got to look at it that way.
Who's the other?
Oh, you're asking me there. I have no idea. Is it
Morecambe ladies.
Well done, Nick. Well done.
The other one was Wimbledon, the new Wimbledon, until last season. Now it is only.
But they got relegated. And to be fair, they were clinging on to the fact that the old Wimbledon said they'd never been relegated, but they got relegated in 1991, 92 from the Premiership. So there you go, 92.
Yeah. Well, so I've sorted it out anyway. We're not.
We got there in the end.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to take a pretty mad turnaround, but we saw a mad turnaround last season, and like Ben said, football's daft, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I take Ben's point actually, because when you're looking at the last 7 fixtures last year, you weren't expecting to win at Charlton and beat Oxford, who were 5th at home. You were looking at other fixtures, thinking, well, that's the point. That's when we'll get the points from, but we didn't.
Yeah, like the Cambridge game. I remember I was thinking, fantastic. That's the one we can, that's the one that we can win, and that's the one that we actually lost.
Yes, exactly. It's
How
strange.
many games are left?
7. I
7,
think, isn't it?
So if
7.
you're playing against a team that haven't got anything to play for, chances are.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Exactly,
what
and that's what kicked off the run last season. I
was.
remember it was the game against Burton where Burton were just, they just looked like they couldn't really be bothered because it
They're
was
on
the
the
end of the season.
they were flicking through jet2.com online.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of tricky ones like your Barnsley's and your Plymouths, but then after that, there's a few. We end the season with Lincoln and Exeter, who don't have anything to play for. So that could well play in our favour. So we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed, really, for these last few games.
I was not being particularly royal. I was thinking, how can I get out of watching the coronation? And now they've moved the Exeter game to Sunday. I'm like, well, if we need a win, I might have to go just to avoid, perhaps get out of the way just to avoid it, because I don't want to see Flappy Lugs getting a crown put on his head, to be honest. But that's just me. I appreciate people will be, subservient and bow their heads and scrape to their elders and betters, but I'm not one of them. I've got a massive chip on my shoulder, so there you go. Anyway, moving on. I forgot where I'm going next. Oh yeah, let's talk about Morecambe FC, the women, as you've changed the name to now.
We were Morecambe ladies for a long time. Morecambe have, as you'll see from last weekend, have come in. They've come in for us, and
Made you a decent offer.
they've gladly seen what we're all about, and they like what they see, and obviously they like what they saw Sunday. But yeah, we've just thought, well, it makes sense, a lot of sense nowadays. A lot of the teams are changing the name to women, and we thought it was more PC, and obviously the Morecambe FC bit at the front is just makes sense with what we are now. So yeah, that's currently still in the process. We officially aren't in terms of the league, but we are, if you know what I mean.
So last time we spoke, we were just generally chatting about what was going on with the club and the results that were going on. And obviously they picked up, and I just obviously did some, did my homework. And when you go on the website, you've got, fantastically, Ben, you've got 67 registered players.
I know.
You've got a bloody squad to pick from there, son, haven't you?
Well, you would think that. but there's not necessarily 67 available every week, shall we say.
Well, that surely that eases the headache a bit, doesn't it?
Well, it does. It is if they're available. If they're not, it doesn't. Because obviously there's the first team, we can only take 16 to a game.
Yeah.
So it's one of them where...
What would you say your squad size was for the first team? Have you got like a squad of like 25 that you think they're the ones that are going to be the first teamers, or do you not?
I'd like to have 20. I think I've got roughly around 20.
Yeah.
Which is a good balance, because obviously you've got your 16, so it allows 4 not to be available or working, but we don't have to take 16. So sometimes it benefits having the 16 players available. Other times it benefits not having 16 available, if that makes sense. In terms of, I know I shouldn't, but at times I feel like if I take someone all the way to Workington and then not play him, I know it's football and it is what it is, but part of me inside thinks if that was me, I'd be annoyed.
Well, yeah, true.
It is football. It is football at the end of the day, and it happens. So,
well,
good.
You got a 0-0 draw at Workington, so you must have done all right.
Yeah, we got a 0-0 draw, and to be honest, I think we only went with 13, 14. It wasn't the strongest 11 we had, but we did the job there, and it just shows the depth in the squad depth that we've got. That when you don't necessarily have all your first 11 that you would have, there's players that can fill in.
Oh, my next question is an obvious question. As soon as it was announced, obviously the Bolton game originally was tabled to be at the Mazuma, but for reasons which now seem a bit ridiculous. They decided there might be trouble for that one, and so they didn't play. And so Workington last Sunday was your first game at the Mazuma. How many did you have clamouring for the first team spots last Sunday?
There are many, wasn't it? Can you remember?
Probably not as many as we thought, but I think there was probably about 22.
Yeah, suddenly people available. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good Sunday with it being the sort of start of holidays and things like that. And there was when Man City are at home, and there's a lot of our juniors still have games. So in terms of fan base, we probably could have got more. For the Penrith game, it's one of those weekends where there potentially could be more there because there's not as much people going away for Easter, etc. But in terms of players, again, it's trying to get everybody fit and ready for that game. Now we've got a 5-week break, which is going to be absolute killer. Yeah,
I noticed that on the fixtures, and I thought that was ludicrous. What's happening there? Why has that happened?
It's our last game, so we've probably played more games than everybody else.
Yeah, and like I said, we spoke about that last time, and the fact that there were some teams who played 6-7 games less, so they've got a lot of catching up to do. But I mean, it's been a learning curve, Ben. But how was it at the Mazuma? There must have been a massive buzz when the girls came out to warm up, and there's a bloody crowd there like that, because that was. I know you get crowds when you've been playing at the college, etc. But it must be, And I know they did the scoreboard and all that sort of thing. Yeah. And it's just like, wow, that's just, that's you're billing big time now, Ben and Hannah.
How many was there? What was the total?
There was just less than 700. So
I mean, 654, I think there was.
Yeah, it was. And if you think back, and Nick will remember this because obviously Joel's not old enough, and Ben's not old enough, and Hannah's not old enough, and I don't think Nick's even probably just past my age. He's nowhere near. But when we were in the Northern Premier League, if we got 654 for an home game in the Northern Premier League, that was a bloody great crowd. So, we were averaging 250, 300 even when we were fairly successful. So it just shows you how the sort of knock-on effect of England winning the Euros has had. You get the game at the Mazuma, and go on, talk us through it. What was it like the whole day, Ben?
The whole day, it was. I had to try and think of it as a normal game. I know it's very hard to say that and do that, but
you say that beforehand, but now you can look back and think, God, it was special.
It was special when you turn up to the car park and the steward that was on the roundabout and you explain who you are, and he goes, "Go and park in Derek's spot."
I like it, brilliant.
So you go in. I'm like, yeah, all right then. So you go in and then you park in the spot, and it says first Morecambe manager or first team manager, whatever it says on it. You kind of look at it and you think, do you know what? It is different. And then you walk into the stadium, and the fact that there's stewards on a car park to start coming up to it is different. And then you're going into the changing rooms, and then we're putting the kit out and properly in this proper big dressing room rather than a little tin cabin or wherever you're at. It is a lot different. And then you just walk out like onto the pitch to have a look, and you and the chains across, and you look at it and you think, I wish I could play on that again. But it's one of them. It's like I said pre-match and post-match. The day wasn't about me. It was about the girls and what they've done and what Nick and Sophie have done. I'm just the lucky guy that got to manage it. It's all the hard work Nick and Sophie and the girls have put in for the last 15, 20 years, whatever it is they've been going.
That must have been a fantastic moment for you, Nick, thinking, well, we've got this combination now where we're part of Morecambe FC, and seeing the girls finally walk onto the pitch and walk out, and there's 650 odd there clapping. Are you thinking, no, this is what I wanted?
Yeah, I spoke to Ben Sadler last week, and I said, how's ticket sales going? He said, 250. I don't know whether he was being a bit modest there at the time. So I was up. Sorry, my cat's got on my dog's head. So we were up in the boardroom, obviously having a bit of something to eat, and when we finally came out about 10 to, we had a look about, and I said, how many? He says, oh yeah, it's probably a bit more than that. It's more like 650 now. So really, I thought, well, yeah, it's good and it's bad, because I thought, oh my God, we've got a lot here. It's fantastic. I said, but now we've got to go and perform.
Yeah.
You know, there's a bit of pressure on now. So I did feel for the girls at that point, and I was thinking, oh God, what's the team? What's the team? And I saw the team, and I thought, all right, okay, we should be all right. You know, Ben got it right on the day. We'll give him that. Let's say, yeah, it was a good day. Probably good opposition, because Workington have probably had a little bit of a slump in form. So I mean, I'm not taking it away from our girls. We did have a strong squad out. There was two or three on the bench that I probably thought, ooh, they won't be happy that they're on the bench. But you know,
That's
it is what it is.
Though, isn't it? You want them champing at the bit, Ben, don't you? You want them, get me on, boss, get me on.
Yeah, of course you do. That's what you want. And what didn't help me was the club put the team out on Twitter before I'd even told them. which obviously is a learning curve for me, to tell the team straight away. But my plan was, if I don't say it till everybody warms up properly.
And so,
which they do anyway. They do anyway. But you know, you always get this. You know, every team, male, female, professional, non-professional, you always get your one or two that don't really do it properly, because they know, like, if you tell them they're on the bench or whatever. And so then I was setting up the warm-up, and then I think it was Nat Broad came out and was like, you need to come into the changing room because they put the team out on Twitter.
You see, that's the trouble with social media now. It's a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Because obviously the Twitter, you'll have done the team sheet, handed it into the ref, and then they'll just take it off that straight away and put it out there, because they're professional now. So that's what the media team do: get it out there, get it known.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, Hannah, what was it like finding out that on Twitter that you were starting?
What'd you say?
What was it like finding out on Twitter that you were starting then?
Yeah, I was hoping I was going to be starting. I wasn't too much of a surprise. I was just going to say, Ben, that sometimes if you know you're playing, when you go out and warm up, you get in your head that you're playing and you focus a little bit more anyway. So on the flip side, you know where you're playing, you can kind of like look at the pitch, get it in your head, right, I'm going to be playing here. So I think it might have worked in your favour there, maybe.
Well, it appears so, because obviously, Hannah, talk us through it. You ran out 5-1 winners. And like Ben said, you got a 0-0 draw at Workington, so that's a big team.
I didn't play away at Workington, but I think by the sounds of it that day, you just had loads of chances, but it just was one of those days, and you just couldn't score by the sounds of it. It was a relatively comfortable game. I feel like we had quite a few chances. We had loads of corners. It felt like the first kind of 20 minutes or so, and then once we got that first goal, another one came, and then they scored an own goal. So kind of, did we go in 3-1 at half time, was it?
Yeah. 3-1.
Even though it's one of those, you go in, you don't want to get complacent. 3-1, if they score the next goal, it's like you see in any game, sometimes being a goal down sometimes works in your favour, because it gives you a bit of a kick. And then kind of second half, took us a while to get that next goal, but it was relatively comfortable. It's just such a big pitch to play on, which sometimes kind of helps because you've got a bit more time on the ball, but so much more ground to cover. So kind of that last 15 minutes, struggle. I'm still not fully recovered now.
So what was it like with the whole if you like, media circus, the ground itself, changing rooms, the crowd, the scoreboard, the match day announcer, you know?
Yeah, it's just that whole so much more professional setup of kind of when you go to a school or a leisure centre or a 3G pitch or a bit of grass. It's that, like Ben said, you pull up. It was really busy actually, just on that main road, and I was thinking, this can't be the traffic for the game already. It wasn't. I think they're going somewhere else. But yeah,
probably, but you still had a good crowd.
and just pulling up to a big stadium, knowing you're going to be playing inside there, walking into the change rooms, and that kind of that feel of the tunnel, going looking on the pitch, and cameras, people, the media there, and like you're thinking, oh, taking photos. And then the crowd's the main thing. You kind of some of the girls I know would have been nervous, but some would kind of play. I know I prefer more people watching. It makes you try a little bit more, I suppose. And then especially with a big crowd like that, I was thinking we don't want to lose today. We need to win today. But having them there and just that noise when you like through on goal or you attack, it's just that kind of whole different feel. It definitely gives you a bit of a lift. And even though there was a great amount of people there, you look at the stand and it like that stand wasn't full, and you think surely we could easily fill that. I know a lot of people that would have maybe come from my way. I live in Ulverston that couldn't make it that day. That hopefully we could get 1,000 people there. A bit more promotion.
That's an interesting point. The simple fact that you've got to be chuffed with the first crowd of 600 and because it's the first of hopefully many of those situations. But as Nick said, it's one of those things where it was the start. Some people were on Easter holidays, etc., etc. There were other games going on. There was other girls who would normally come and watch, and their families would come and watch, but they were playing. So it's going to be interesting when you end up playing the next game, isn't it? Really, and fingers crossed, you could match that or maybe do better than that.
Yeah, because there's been a bit more social media videos, photos, and people you spoke to were like, "Oh, it's amazing! Oh, right, when like, oh, you're playing there again? I'll put it on the calendar. Hopefully, we'll get a few more down."
And we've been as probably Nick knows because I know he listens, but we've been quite vocal about this game coming up. We've mentioned it the last 3 sort of like Thursdays when we recorded it, saying look, we're all looking forward to it. And I mentioned in the preamble before we came on air that the joke that myself and James and Joel came out with is like, we want to see us beat Lancaster's home gate, and Lancaster's home average gate was 252. So 654 absolutely wipes the floor with that. But then I have to say that it was non-league day on Saturday, and they got 882 on Saturday because they threw it ticket in for a £5 for everybody. So that sort of ruined it, really. But congratulations to Lancaster. I'm nothing against Lancaster, but their average gate was 252 before last Saturday, Joel. And so I like to think we played our small part in getting the 650 odd down. Yeah,
I mean, their average is still, what, 300, 250? So that's what I'm comparing it against. But I mean, who knows how much of a part we play. That might be slightly overestimating our influence.
I'm not saying I said a small part. Small.
Yeah, maybe just a small part. But like you say, it's a really great thing to happen. Obviously, Nick and Sophie have been running the team for such a long time, and it's taken a while for things to get brought together. But I'm glad it now has, and you can see obviously like the kits that they get in, and it just looks so much more professional. Obviously, Ben's sporting the jacket for the jacket as a manager, so like it's just.
He's got his own parking spot.
I know he got his own parking spot. I know. Well, that's something. Yeah, I'm too actually. I remember it's quite a thrill parking in there. I remember going on a couple of trips over summer to the club shop, and my dad always thinking, "Yeah, it's got to park in the manager's spot. It might be exciting." But no, yeah. It's great to be able to put something like this together and bring it all under one umbrella properly, because it needs to happen, and it's a part of the game that's really starting to grow, and it's important that we as a club help contribute to that.
I think timing wise as well, off the back of the Euros, it's the Women's World Cup in July. It's just like a really good time for us to try and kind of push it, especially for the young girls. I mean, like all the girls at the end of the game are wanting like autographs and things like that. It's just like, really, you want an autograph? But they love it, don't they? It's kind of
it is high profile for obvious reasons. And Nick's got his one eye on Chelsea versus Lyon. How's that going?
It's 0-0.
That'll do for me. So that'll do for me because I'm a Chelsea fan. So I'm like, yeah, great. It'll 1-0 away from home. That'll do me. But anyway, Hannah, let's chat about you reckon you've been now playing how long?
Football in general or at Morecambe?
No, football in general to start with.
I can't do the maths. What's 32 take 8? Whatever that is.
24.
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
I'd say I probably started playing football back in the day with all the lads. We had to play with a tennis ball actually when I was at school. You couldn't play with football, so I was
Smash
probably
windows.
three,
Smash
four.
windows in school. That's the same when I was at school. They banned
Yeah.
it. No.
And then I went to like, they had like, I live at Alderson, so they did like soccer schools. They used to run like the Man United soccer schools it was originally. And again, back then I was probably one of the only girls that were playing. So I went and had trials at Man United from that. So I played there under 12s. And then I was at Preston, then I was at Blackburn, and then I kind of played at uni and a team that way. And then Morecambe, just working my way back.
Then she at the big time.
Yeah, I was going to say. So you've had 13 seasons at Morecambe. How did that happen?
Nick won't let me go anywhere. Nick's pestering me. Do you know what? I'm lucky enough to have videos that Martin he did, and when you look back at it's flown by. It's bizarre how when I look back and think, God, how old was I there? I don't know how I've managed it. I don't know how many more I've got left in me.
So you're midfield, is that right?
Yeah.
You're midfield, but I understand. I did some research by speaking to Becca, who came on last time, and she said, "Oh, Hannah, she plays anywhere." Yeah,
I used to play fullback, right mid, and more recently centre mid. So like being involved in the whole game.
So you don't care where you play?
Well, as long as it's not in goal. And Ben did ask me if I wanted to play centre back a few weeks ago. I'm like, all right. I can if you want.
I'll tell you something about Pales. The reason she can play anywhere is because she's one of those players that can create space for herself. So you can put her in the midfield, put her in the back four, put her wherever, and she's always looks comfortable and got time on the ball. That's why she looks like she's comfortable. She's probably thinking, "What the hell am I doing here?" And I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. But it looks like she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
She's got energy as well. She's fit as a fiddle, runs all day, and one of those players you can rely on.
James Milner.
Yeah.
Not that
bad. Well, actually, I'll tell you a little story. I'll tell you a little story about now. In the fact that I don't know if you went that day, Ben, but we Ishimai in about 2002 took a coach load of kids to see under 21s play in a tournament at Blackburn, and there was me and Dave Hopkinson took it, and James Milner was playing for the under 21s in 2002, and he was an overage player then. So you've got a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
Do you know what was amazing on Sunday? As I said, Pales has mentioned the girls wanting autographs and stuff. I was sat upstairs on the director's balcony with Stuart Glover, and he could not believe that the girls were wanting. He said, look at them. There was 30, 40 girls stood there begging, waving pens and bits of paper. Give me an autograph, and they had big banners and shirts, and they were getting everything. So that must have been absolutely amazing for the girls. You got Hannah and Yaz that turned up with their children.
Yeah.
Their children must think, what the hell's going on here? What's all this about? My mum, famous, and obviously Yaz scored a hat trick, which she got to go on the limelight, which was amazing.
Well, that was my next one actually, because I was like, 3-1 at half time, but then. The icing on the cake was the hat trick, wasn't it? And I mean, and it's there was as you say, there was an own goal, but there was one really good finish. But then there was a bit of a fox in the box about Yaz's hat trick, wasn't there? Really, Hannah?
Yeah, there was a bit of a fox, and it was right towards the end actually. I did look for her. I was joking at half time, saying, "Oh, you're on after, no one's going to pass to you. I'm not going to pass to you, Yaz." And then I think there was one maybe chance towards the end, and then I don't know when she scored it, but I've just kind of pinged it over to her. I actually did kind of get taken out actually, so if she didn't score, it might have given us a free kick. But she managed to. I think I saw the video. She managed to just kind of get her foot in the way, and then everyone seemed to be going down with cramp, when they were scoring. We had loads of people went down with cramp. Nat scored, Lottie went down with cramp. Yaz scored, she went down with cramp. At one point, 3 went down at the same time. I was like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think that's possibly something to do with, first of all, like you said, the big pitch, and secondly, the occasion does drain your adrenaline, doesn't it?
Yeah, and whether it was, I don't know if it rained a bit, so it was maybe a little bit soft. So yeah, it does. That last kind of 10-15 minutes is, it was hard.
Yeah, it didn't help me, did it? I had to start thinking on my feet about, right, does she need to come off? Does she need, who can I put on?
Yeah.
Luckily, most of them stayed on. But yeah, I think the best part of that video package was Nat Broad scored in her goal, and then Lottie up. Was it Yaz or Lottie going down with cramp?
Yeah,
Nat went straight to physio mode and started stretching out of cramp rather than celebrating. But yeah, it was good.
So you must have done a fairly decent job, Ben, in what you said earlier, and that was the one piece of advice that we had in the podcast last week was play the game and not the occasion, and you must have drilled that into the girls pretty well.
Yeah, well, my way of saying it was slightly different. And people laughed at me when I said it, but I said it's just a football pitch. At the end of the day, it's the same. Yes, it's a big football pitch, but it's the same markings. It's the same grass pitch, the same goals. You've got to try and forget about the surroundings and just play your game, just play football, go and enjoy it. And they did. We kept the ball down and played it like I asked them to. And it was good how they did. I did say to them to start, it'll be the first team that isn't rabbits in headlights that will win the game. And I think we settled down a lot quicker, which then showed when we started playing and scoring. I mean, even before we scored the first goal, we should have had 2 or 3.
Yeah, like you say, there were plenty of corners, weren't there, Hannah? And when that happened, I think you settled really, really well. And I think that was was that because you were thinking, well, we can do this because we've got the crowd behind us and we've been looking forward to this for weeks?
I think so. I know that, like I said, players would have been nervous, but I think, more so just with the crowd behind them. I think them nerves would have soon gone. And for Workington, travelling however long it'll take them to get there to come and play away with a crowd, which are obviously mostly Morecambe, that was obviously going to work in our favour massively as well. So, I think we were all pretty much settled. Even though the crowd were loud, you were still on the pitch, and at times, you weren't anywhere near them. We were doing, kind of in our own space. So,
You mentioned these corners. I was sat next to Beth Fisher, who is an ex-player. Well, she's played this season, but she's the one that has had a child. And she was a centre half. And all these corners kept getting whizzed over to the back post. And she's going, why? Why now? When I played, none of these corners were coming in. And I'd have scored that. I think
she was, Erin had a couple of chances on corners, didn't she? But Ellie's got a good throw in her as well, so it worked quite well. We got a throw in right kind of up towards the corner. Ellie just big throw in, and then it ended up coming off a defender, and we did that kind of second half as well. So we just used that in our favour too. So, yeah.
Yeah, presumably you've seen the highlights, Joel, and you've seen some of the silky football on offer, because they did as Ben asked and kept it on the deck, and it was pass and move.
No, it was lovely. Yeah, no, just really good to see them given the opportunity to play on the pitch, and the hard work that Ben and Hannah and everybody put in behind the scenes, and be able to do that in a venue that then provides them with that bit of media coverage, so that can be shown off on Facebook and Twitter and all the socials, and sticking the ball away in the Mazuma net. That's what we all want to see, and unfortunately it's not happened very much on a Saturday over the last few weeks. So to go and to see the women's team go and do that and do it in such good fashion was really positive to see.
And presumably, and I'm asking this now, so sort of like the future, this whole connection with the actual being affiliated with the actual club and being able to partake of the facilities, etc., that is part of what's attracted some of the players already. But you should find it fairly easy now to keep your better players and attract other ones as well, Nick.
Well, it's certainly going to help us keep the better players, because obviously the better players are the ones that have been having a bit of a whinge over the past year or two about this, that, and the other. And I know that they certainly enjoyed Sunday. And if that's a taste of things to come, then yes, they're likely to hang around. In terms of attracting better players, we have got a trial day on the 30th, I think it's the 30th of April, May, after the day after the Penrith game, which will be opening up to anybody. So that will be the true test of where we're at and whether it's opened anybody's eyes. But Morecambe going to be pushing it for us, and let's see. Hopefully, I mean, we've got we've got the under-16s that are going to be open age next year. So there's a few of those good players coming through. So yeah, I mean, if that's a taste of what is to come, and people have seen that, and these girls, not just, I mean, Hannah tells you she's from Ulverston. We've got girls from Carlisle, Blackpool, Preston, Barrow. You know, we're not a Morecambe-based team really in terms of the players, but the ones that are coming through will be. So and that's what we need really. We want the girls that are local to really get on it and want to be part of that and get involved in it all. So hopefully, yeah.
Well, it's been a fantastic experience for everybody, and I know it was. I always look at what happened on social media, and there was genuine thrill and a little bit of surprise, which didn't surprise me. But people were coming away from the game going, "Oh yeah, that was really good," and our lot are really good, and that was the general gist of it. And that's got to, you know, all three of you should take some pride in that, because the simple fact is, like I've said, and I repeat, if you're going to build as a club and be successful, then, you know, you're identified with the Morecambe brand now. 654 as a starter. Hannah would like to see 1,000 there, and I think that's an achievable goal, Nick, don't you?
Absolutely. As I said before, I mean, there's people there that weren't there that have told me that they will be there at the next game. And there's, I mean, must have had 4 or 5 people come up to me during the game, just, you know, tapping me on the shoulder and said, "Wow, you must be really proud." I mean, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, the girls have really enjoyed it. We weren't expecting it, like you say. We weren't expecting it to be this enjoyable. Put it this way, if we'd lost 5-1, would it have been the same? But the fact that we won 5-1 made it that little extra special. But people have just, you know, they enjoyed it and they've been part of it. Leon have just scored, by the way. And
oh, don't! You just threw me night.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, it was great, and everybody that I've spoken to really enjoyed it. They said one or two said it was a bit cold, but Penrith game it'll be red hot. So
I'll be shorts and t-shirts by then.
T-shirt weather. So yeah, we'll get them all out. We'll get them all out to that one.
And hopefully, you know, those 600 odd people, if they tell other people they bring one other person each. There you go. Like it's
there, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the only thing I'll say is that if you know, our last home win for the men was 1-0 against Port Vale. So if you can keep smashing in the goals, then your crowds are going to grow, aren't they? Yeah. And from that point of view, the whole experience, both positively for the club itself and positively for the you know, you guys getting mobbed for autographs and stuff like that. We need to get team photos out there that you can sign, and you know, people, you know, daft, but things like that. They love it. The kids would absolutely love it. And in 10 years' time, who knows? Those kids could be taking over from you, Hannah, when you're now coaching the team. You know, and Ben's retired and has to park somewhere else.
I'll be playing walking football for Morecambe.
That's what I do now. And I do. And bizarrely, we are affiliated with the football club, and I help manage the walking football because I'm, you know, an ancient old fossil. But yeah, so yeah, you know, unfortunately you can't come because it's over 50, so you've got a long way to go yet, girl. So Joel, have you got any questions?
No, I think we've kind of covered it already.
Well, anything from the trust?
Not particularly as of the moment. Obviously, we're well aware of the situation. You know, how could we how could we not be? But yeah, it's a tricky one, and you know, I think most importantly, you know, we hope that all the staff at the football club and from every behind the scenes, the players and the management, we hope that they're okay in this tricky time, and that that the wages get paid as soon as possible. We're kind of just waiting to see what develops with everything and how quickly this is managed to get resolved. But yeah, at the moment we can do all we can do is kind of really hope for the best and hope that the situation can be resolved as soon as possible, because most importantly the players and the staff need paying.
Yeah, you're right. And I think we've successfully, hopefully, cheered everybody up a little bit here. And I've just thought there will be, in years to come, there'll be a quiz question. And the quiz question, what's the connection between Stabby McElroy, Jim Bentley, Stephen Robinson, Derek Adams and Ben Anderson? And it's they all parked in the same spot. That's your answer to that. I'll leave you with that one. This has been ShrimpNet. What's this, 32? Is it 32? I think it is. Yeah. 32 of the season. Thank you to Hannah. Thank you to Ben for coming on. Thank you to Nick as usual. We will keep tabs on you and we will keep mentioning you when you've got the games, etc., etc. Keep doing the good stuff. Keep smashing in the goals. And if you ask you to play centre half, it sounds like you could play there. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll find out on Twitter anyway.
Well done, girl. Yeah, good answer. Yeah. I bet it was Ben who did it on Twitter, actually. Going, oh, look. No. So thanks for listening. This has been ShrimpNet. Well done to the ladies. Please, hopefully, let's get the staff and the players paid. And also, it would be nice to get something at Barnsley on Saturday, but I'm not holding my breath.
I am. It's happening. 18% possession, 1-0, most shithousey win you'll ever see.
That'll do for me. See you next week.